Hey guys, welcome to Bubble Man's World. I am here with longtime local Vancouver activist Dana Larsen. Really more than just a Vancouver activist. You've been doing a shit ton for cannabis, that is for certain.
Yeah, sure. I'll take Vancouver activist, that's alright.
Absolutely, from editing Cannabis Culture magazine and then getting into the NDP and the political ring and getting into Sensible BC. Tons of stuff you can Google on Dana Larsen, including a variety of pretty funny yet educational books, which is the reason we're here talking to him today. You may have seen the post I put up on Instagram a couple of days ago of the Dr Seuss parody book, Green Buds and Hash. Well, Dana, of course, is the author of such parody. Yes, hilarious.
There we go.
I actually read it to my 8-month-old child the other day, along with the help from my 14 and 11-year-old, and I was surprised at how really, I mean, the rhymes are awesome. It's definitely Dr. Seuss-like, but it's actually quite educational.
Yeah.
Like, you're really giving education in regards to ailments and the way cannabis can help. I thought it was pretty brilliant.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I wrote this a few years ago, actually. I wrote the poem about 4 or 5 years ago and just put it online. It's floating around on a lot of different websites now. But the art, my friend, he's a very talented artist, and the art just definitely helps make it a beautiful book. And yeah, I'm really pleased. Sometimes when I'm writing stuff, it's really hard to get it out, but this all just kind of came out in a big blurb, a big thing. And
the art is definitely on point.
Yeah, it's very Seussian. So much on point that, there could be a chance we'll be facing some kind of, can you see that there? I don't know if the thing is too, oh, there you go. That's some of the stuff. But yeah, I'm a little worried about the Seuss estate coming down on us in some way, about the art and stuff. But all the more reason to get your copies now before they have any legal problems.
True enough.
True
enough. I grabbed mine right away, and they're for sale all over the city. A lot of different shops have them, from CCHQ. Did you send some down to Ignite? Or?
I haven't yet, but I'll be bringing some by there. But if you want for mail order, you can get them right now from the Cannabis Culture shop. Mail order is the only place I think that's doing mail order right now, or for me directly too if you want. Yep. They're $15, $14.95, $5 shipping. So for $20, you can get a copy delivered right to your door.
And where can they send that to? How do they get that information?
Well, you can send me an email money transfer just to my email address, dana@danalarsen.com. And I also take PayPal as well if you want to contact me for PayPal. My PayPal address is actually book@harrypothead.net, and that's H-A-I-R-Y, Harry as in what I'm not. Well, I'm on my face, I guess. But yeah, harrypothead.net. You can check that out, or you can just email me and figure out how to make a payment. But and we're actually reprinting the first Harry Pothead book again in a couple of weeks as well, so that'll be fun to have both of those.
Which is probably your most well-known parody.
Yeah, and that's been out for quite a few years. I'm working steadily on the sequel to it, but it's taken me a long time because there's so many other projects I got going on. But the Green Buds and Hash is lovely. I'm glad your children are enjoying it there.
Yeah, I think it's legitimate, dude. At first when I saw it, I really thought it was more of a ha-ha thing. And then I saw it as like, this is a really important factor of how we can educate children without the sort of, I mean, I'm watching throughout the media how they're going through all the years of propaganda and brainwashing, and how they're now slowly trying to retract and pull back a lot of that. Mm-hmm. I think things like this are extremely helpful to start early.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, and for kids, I mean, I kind of see this as an adult thing in a way, like, I mean, an 8-month child is going to be amused by anything you're reading, no matter what, obviously, right? They just like the sounds.
But it normalizes it, is what I mean.
Yeah, no, to me, it's just a fun thing. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with kids talking about cannabis or being told cannabis is a good medicine or things like that. In fact, I think that probably creates a healthier attitude towards cannabis than seeing it as this forbidden thing that you've got to try in secret and maybe not in the best context. Just like I think it's probably better for kids to try alcohol with their parents perhaps for the first time. Oh, yeah. I think having a normalized attitude about cannabis is similar as well. And But this is fun for all ages, certainly, and grown-ups can enjoy it as well, I think. And,
Definitely, I read it and laughed my ass off.
Yeah, and it does have a little moral there as well. So I've actually got a whole bunch of other fairy tales and parodies and things that I've written that are about this length. So we've got the Pie-Eyed Piper. That was actually published in Cannabis Culture magazine quite a few years ago.
I was going to say, that one's going way back.
Well, a lot of this stuff's been sitting around for a while. It takes getting the artists in line is challenging. Getting the money and the talent and fun and getting them to spend the time doing it. But I've got the Pie-Eyed Piper coming out in a couple of months. We've got another one called The Girl Who Could Turn Hemp into Gold. And that one actually hasn't been published anywhere publicly at all. And so I'm hoping to put out a series of these things. And in another year or so, I'm hoping to have about 5 or 6 of these kind of books out in a similar format. But the other ones aren't Dr. Seuss parodies. They're just fairy tales. So there shouldn't be any lawsuits over those ones, I'm hoping. And hopefully not on this one either. You know, satire and parody in Canada are allowed. So I feel we fall under those things. But I admit I'm just a little nervous that the Seuss estate might decide to feel differently or something. Who knows? Right. But I certainly, I love Dr. Seuss like everybody else, and need no disrespect to him or any means, and hopefully he would enjoy this and think it's a fun riff on his work.
Well, you got to think that if he ever enjoyed cannabis in his life, that he would definitely find enjoyment in this particular parody of his work.
Absolutely.
I think it's done with class nonetheless, so. Good to be here smoking with you.
Well, there's so much going on these days.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm in the news, like on the media's calling me nonstop for comment on all these things that are going on. Pretty much since 420, from about 419, every day I've had at least 4 reporters calling me for stuff, and and some days it's really crazy. But we've had the dispensary thing happening in Vancouver and all the kerfuffle and change around that. Victoria today just voted like an hour ago, 8-1, to follow the Vancouver model and basically legalized dispensaries in Victoria and come up with some kind of rules.
It was possible that they were going to maybe...
Yeah, we weren't sure. We thought we had support, but it was an 8-1 vote, so we were looking for, to get at least 5 of those 9 votes, but 8-1 is really solid. And the one vote against wasn't even really that strongly against. He was more just sort of like, this is Ottawa's problem, we shouldn't be fixing their problems for them. So that sounds really good. Yeah, he wasn't like marijuana's cancerous or bad and we should, But so that's very positive. And with the 2 biggest cities in BC now basically telling the Harper government to get lost, we're going to regulate cannabis dispensaries in the province. That is a huge influence. And I think that many other smaller cities and towns in BC and across Canada are going to start following that model as well. And it gives you an option. You can't just say as a mayor now, well, the law is the law and we have to shut them down because that's the law. Mm-hmm. We don't have a choice. Well, you do have a choice. And so that makes it a lot more interesting. In Kelowna, I've been talking to the folks there. They've got a dispensary. They were raided in January. They just reopened. Now the police came in 2 days ago and said you have 24 hours to shut down. And the city inspector actually came in with the police officers with them.
Okay? Or?
It started off being called the Kaya Clinic, and then they got raided and shut down. Okay. They reopened as the OK Clinic now. Okay, yes. And so they've got a thing going. Weeds has also opened one there, and they're also getting pressured to shut down in the same way. But yeah, so this means, whereas in West Kelowna and Vernon, they've got a couple of dispensaries each, and the city councils are more favorable, so we're going to see this playing out city by city and town by town all across the country as these places continue to
I got to give props to our mayor for disagreeing with Amber Rose and disagreeing with the things that were said, which was basically that I believe she made a quote, and was it your quote that said maybe I'm misquoting her, or maybe she meant to say this wrong? I remember reading someone's words about it, that she said there was no medical value.
Oh, absolutely. She said that over and over again. She said that what she basically said was that we have to provide cannabis to patients because the courts have ruled that patients believe that it helps them. And so we have to provide it because they believe that it helps them. But Health Canada knows that marijuana is not an approved medicine, it's not a valid medicine, and so by extension, basically, it's all a hoax. And if you think marijuana is helping you, you're actually deluded.
And this is the health minister.
This is the health minister who runs the medical marijuana program. So obviously, you're not going to have a successful program when the person whose department it is to be in charge of it says she doesn't believe it works. It's a big hoax, and you just believe it helps you, but you're wrong. And so we're actually sponsoring a week of action against Rona Ambrose. This is something anybody in the country can do. Basically, we're going to call all of her office phone numbers and Health Canada numbers all day long, all next week, and explain to them why cannabis is real medicine. Share with them science and facts. Share with them your personal stories. Want their phone ringing off the hook.
These numbers are listed on Dana's page as well as a variety of other pages. You can search Facebook for Dana Larsen. That's SEN.
That's right. And if you go to our website, sensiblebc.ca/defend, there's all the information there as well. And I think it's linked from our campaigns link at the top of the page.
But, you got about 6 or 8 numbers there.
Yeah, it's 5 phone numbers actually. So it's her Edmonton office, her Ottawa office, the Health Canada office, the Rona Ambrose's media contact office. I don't want him to be able to call any reporters or anything. And then there's one more number as well. But basically, we're going to be flooding their office. We did this similar thing last year when they were telling medical patients to mix their cannabis with kitty litter and throw it away on the curb. And so we did a one-day of action last year, and it was very effective. And if you're mad about this stuff, this is your chance to vent and to all vent together. And if you have, if you're upset about the way things are going, you don't like what the Conservatives are saying, and you want to tell somebody off, well, this is your chance to do that, to get that energy out there, direct it where it belongs to be, at the federal government, at the Minister of Health and Health Canada, and the terrible job they're doing with the program. So,
and if you can do it in the most intellectually and articulate manner that is respectful and not, you can't be phoning up and threatening and being,
Don't threaten anybody. And remember, you're not going to be talking to Rona Ambrose. You're going to be talking to staff members who work at Health Canada. Exactly. They are probably just people who are there just to do their job and get paid. And they might not even agree with what their department's philosophy is. So you want to be firm, you want to be clear, but don't be calling and swearing at them or threatening them or anything, phoning in bomb threats or any crazy stuff like that. Just talk about why, but keep them on the phone. Don't let them hang up on you. Don't let them put you off. Explain to them why cannabis helps you, why you believe it's important. Try to keep them on the phone as long as possible, and just bring these things forward. And we really want them to hear personal stories about this. We want that whole department buzzing all week and talking to each other about, holy crap, I got another 100 phone calls today. This is really bad. Clearly people are upset about what's happening here, and we got to make a change.
Yeah, and these are effective tools for activism in different cities that you may live in. You might not even be from Canada, and you might be elsewhere in the world. These are effective tools for moving your activism forward. There's good ways to go about it, and there's not so good ways to go about it. And Dana himself here has been going about this. I mean, what are you, 20 years in now?
Yeah, over 20 years now.
Over 20 years in now, so exactly. I myself am also over 20 years in. Started as an activist in Manitoba.
You got to get some pins or something. 20-year pin.
20 years, yeah. 20 years proud. Absolutely. Well, it's the good work, It's we're fighting for a plant that we believe in, and not just for our own personal agenda, personal reasons for profit or anything like that. It's really, and it always has been, at least for me particularly, for people that don't have a voice for themselves, for the people that really, really need this plant or need access to it, which is why I am a firm supporter of both LPs and dispensaries. I love the idea of dispensaries available to people. Right now, there's not a shadow of a doubt that dispensaries are saving the Canadian people from the LP system at this point in time. The LP system cannot provide enough medicine. They're not providing edibles. They're not providing salves. They're not providing the creams. They're not providing extracts. That's a huge hole. Considering that is the medicine, that's a pretty giant hole to leave your patients with. So, I mean, to me, the dispensaries they're picking up a lot of slack right now. With that said, I still believe the LPs have a place. I still believe that LPs are important, and I love the idea of standards. That's what I love.
I'm all for that. I haven't heard any dispensary owner saying we want LPs shut down.
No.
I want a better system for LPs. Mm-hmm. I feel kind of sorry for them in a way. Not too sorry, because none of them are really stepping up or helping in activism in any way. But it's got to be frustrating to have invested all these millions of dollars, be waiting. A lot of them are LP wannabes who haven't got their permits yet.
True.
They've invested a bunch of money and they're waiting. And even the ones that have are under a regulatory scheme run by a minister who doesn't believe marijuana has any medicinal value. The bureaucracy is very hostile. The rules are keeping changing. Mm-hmm. It's very expensive and challenging, and the patients mostly hate them. I see a lot of very negative LP comments on the internet,
yeah, it's very
and so you've got a lot of challenges there trying to run this. And I think some of them are people who are just in it for the money. Others, I think, are people who love cannabis and want to help people and are trying to do the right thing and are frustrated, by this process. And a lot of those good folks are ones who haven't got their permits yet, actually, is what I've found. The people that are my friends are the ones that kind of...
They're waiting.
Yeah, they're waiting. There's a few folks from the dispensary community that have made it into the LP, like Philip Lucas is working with Tilray, and he originally was one of the very first dispensaries in Canada back in the day in Victoria. And so there is that. But what we need ultimately is a better regulatory system. And one that works differently, and one that, people say, well, do you want to buy all your marijuana from LPs at your dispensary? And I say, well, if most of my suppliers could become LPs fairly easily, then yes, and they should be able to. They're making a high quality product. There should only be some oversight and some testing and things like that.
As long as they can fall through the standards, as long as they make it through this. I think the standards is what will separate the heads from the stalks, so to speak.
But the standards need to be something that's not limited. It's not we're only going to allow a dozen people. It's got to be a fair system.
That's not a standard.
A
standard is keeping a certain bar high. A standard is testing for microbials and making sure that the cannabis has not been sprayed with chemicals, which could involve, just like organic testing and farming does, is having someone come and make sure that you're not doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And
those are standards, not saying, hey, only 10 people can play.
Yeah,
that's completely absurd.
That's a bad thing.
No, I don't support that at all.
But my long-term vision for what legalization really means is that it should be farmers growing marijuana by the thousands of hectares. And so it wouldn't be so much in that kind of model. Some people are still going to be into their perfectly manicured buds for smoking joints and whatnot, but that kind of stuff I think would fall by the wayside, because you don't need to start off with the perfect bud to make a perfect extract at the end of the process. You can, if you're growing it by the hectare and you've got thousands of pounds of resin which is rich in the cannabinoids, you can tweak that and develop it or grow the right strains to have whatever cannabinoid profile you want. I'm not a big fan of some of the extracts that are made because of being made in people's homes. Bubble hash obviously is very safe and pure and clean like that. But yeah, exactly. We only use a water extracted resin for our MJ creams there.
A nice little, right on the bottom there.
Made with pure water extracted marijuana resin. And that's the MJ Creams, mjcreams.ca. We've got a number of different kinds, and we're in about 25 stores now, and a lot more to come. And there's a lot of research and personal experience that topical salves and creams that are marijuana infused work really well for all kinds of stuff. We've been selling these things for a few years. We added a few essential oils to diversify them a little bit. And
it's got a great ingredient list.
Increase their potency and effectiveness medically, and there's some good products, I think. And so we've been selling them at the dispensary for a few years now. But yeah, outdoor cannabis grown by the hectare. None of this growing buds in a basement and everything. That's
under artificial lighting.
And it's a lot harder to keep buds safe from mold and mildew and things, because it's such an organic living thing. Whereas if you have an extract that you can make at any potency, any level of purity, with any level of terpenes and flavonoids grown in an outdoor environment, that I think is the long-term future of marijuana and what I'm working for.
Yeah,
people can still grow some in their backyard, like they grow tomatoes or whatever, and that should be allowed, and people will still do that. But it'd be more of a hobbyist kind of a thing than a big money-making kind of thing. I think that's the future in the long term. But it's going to be a while before we get from here to there also. So
no, I agree. Outdoor is definitely fields and fields is where it's got to be going. The only thing that put us underground and inside with lights is prohibition. And once prohibition is lifted, there's really no more reason to follow prohibition-based models. I think it will be a slow transition. One that potentially in Canada, I think here could potentially be solved by offering a third type of license. Let MMAR patients have their licenses. Let LPs have licenses, but don't limit them. Keep the standards high and offer a third type of licensing for all those growers who are currently growing under an MMAR license, but growing to produce cannabis for others so that they sell it. Let them have another type of license where, okay, if you're growing for yourself, you don't need to test for microbials and all these different things. But if you're putting it on an open market and selling it, then perhaps those standards should be put into place to protect the end user.
No, I agree, absolutely. It's like how we do wine and other things, right? If you want to brew wine in your home and share it with your friends and family without cost, there's not really much oversight. No one's inspecting your wine or anything like that. But if you want to sell it in a store, yeah, I want it to know it's pure and it's not going to contain toxic things, and I want to know that if it says organic on the label, someone's actually checking to make sure it's actually produced organically and things like that. But the wine market has got small scale niche producers that just do very limited amounts. It's got medium producers. It's got really giant companies that make, you know, millions of gallons of wine a year, and there's room for all of those. And that's what we need for cannabis. Room for everybody who wants to get involved and who can produce a high quality product. They should be able to participate in the market if they want to. That's the kind of future we need.
Absolutely, I agree. Well, thanks for sitting down and chatting with me. Maybe I should offer you a lovely bone.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds very nice.
Got a little bit of the D420K sift left over. He was so generous.
D420K.
Yes, Darren. Good old Darren. Great hash maker. Good friend. Boop. Be a little carb there. Because everyone wants to see that carb cap get put on. You don't put that carb cap on, you get like 42 comments. Why wouldn't you carb your bro's bowl, man? Why did you leave him hanging? I'm sorry.
Well, that makes a big difference, eh? Because I can definitely see how it...
Huge difference. With the little hole too. It just, what it feels like after a while when you put the dab in and you start taking your rip without this, it starts feeling like you're pulling down this really big straw, like, instead of that.
No, I liked it like that. It's nice. I do not own a dab rig. I do not really dab unless somebody comes over or I'm out somewhere. I don't
yeah, you puff a lot of joints.
I just smoke joints, but I put bubble hash and other stuff in them usually to give
You're
them
supercharging that shit.
Supercharging my doobies, absolutely.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me, and you guys definitely have a bunch of different things to Google in regards to things that we talked about. And
order this book, Green Buds and Hash, available at the cannabisculture.com store, or for me directly for $20.
Yep.
Dana at danalarsen.com.
I'll have it up too at bubblebag.com. And
get them all you can.
Get them all you can. Thanks for watching Bubble Man's World, and thanks for coming out.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Peace.